Elizabeth Kramer and Julie Beam.
We start full screen or start slides up? What's easier? Full screen so that they can see us?
Yeah, why don't we do that? So Julie, are you sharing your screen? Because I don't see the slides.
I am not, so that's why I'm asking.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Start with the slides up?
Yeah, why don't we do that? They should still see us on the right-hand side.
Next, a full-screen photo of a smiling mother, father, and young boy wearing helmets as they ride bicycles. In large font at the top of the slide, sitting on the right path, promoting attachment and trauma healing for caregivers. In the lower left-hand corner, a logo consists of a drawing of an outstretched hand in the center of a red heart. Attachment and Trauma Network, Incorporated. Now, wearing a headset, blonde Elizabeth Kramer appears in a small chat window in the upper right-hand corner.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. Today's webinar is brought to you by Child Welfare Information Gateway, Administration for Children and Families with the United States Department of Health and Human Services. My name is Elizabeth Kramer, and I'm the Senior Manager for Knowledge Transfer and Information Management at Child Welfare Information Gateway. This webinar is one of several that we are offering virtually to help ensure that critical information is shared with professionals and families during the COVID-19 pandemic, when we are prevented from gathering in person and challenged to continue work with children and families in new and innovative ways. Today's presentation was originally scheduled as a breakout session for the National Foster Parents Association's annual conference. Just a few notes. We are recording today's webinar and will be making this recording available on the National Foster Parent Association website training section. All of our participant phone lines are muted at this time, and we ask that you submit questions in the Q&A box. We will answer questions at the end of the presentation. At the end of the webinar, you also will receive a link to a short survey. We ask that you please provide us with your feedback on this webinar. So now I'm really excited to introduce our session today, Getting on the Right Path, Attachment and Trauma Healing. Our speakers today are Julie Beam and Ginger Healy of the Attachment and Trauma Network, where Julie is the Executive Director and Ginger is the Program Director. And so now, Ginger and Julie, I turn it over to you.
Blonde bespectacled Julie Beam.
Thank you, Elizabeth, so much. Thanks for having us. We're really excited to be able to present this in this environment when we can't be in person to meet folks that would have normally been at the conference. And hopefully that allows some folks that maybe weren't going to be able to travel to get this information as well.
The next slide shows a photo of Julie.
As said, I'm Julie Beam. I'm the Executive Director of the Attachment and Trauma Network, which is a nonprofit that is now in its 25th year. And we focus exclusively on trauma-informed education strategies, practices, information, and support for parents, for educators, and for community leaders. And we've been doing the parenting program for the longest, and Ginger can tell you a little bit about that along with her introduction. I personally have been the executive director for, this is my 11th year, oh my goodness. And I am an adoptive mom and a stepmom and a biological mom and also now a grandmother, which is the best title ever, and have lived the life of parenting children who've been impacted by trauma. So Ginger, would you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Blonde Ginger Healy.
Well, I'm so excited to be here today. I'm Ginger Healy and I'm a mental health therapist. I'm the parenting director for the Attachment and Trauma Network, but most importantly, I'm a mom to 4 kids, and I have a son that was adopted. If I tried to do the math, I'd get it wrong, but 18 years ago or so when we adopted our son, and he came to us with a trauma history, and so I learned a lot of hands-on experience through the years and then along with my career. So I love what I do and really happy to be here and talk about our PATH parenting program, promoting attachment and trauma healing. We have a lot of things that we do to support parents and provide advocacy and education support and resources. So I hope you'll all reach out to us. We have free membership for parents and caregivers that we just would love for you to all join.
How is parenting a foster or adopted child different?
Let's get started. We're really focusing today's presentation on foster parents directly.
Julie Beam.
Obviously, this will resonate with child welfare folks, social workers, adoption workers, other people who work with the population of foster and adoptive families. But we really are speaking, even regardless of our professional backgrounds, in more of a parent-to-parent kind of way, because that's how ATN focuses our work. And that's to start by talking about how parenting a child as a foster parent or parenting an adoptive child is different. What makes them different? Oh, helps if I know how to work the screen. Here we go. Our children come into our homes with a history. Those of us who have also had biological children know that the children born into our families come with very little history. That they're brand new, so to speak. But the children who come into our homes in a foster placement or in an adoptive situation bring with them their history, and that history almost always includes loss, grief, complex family relationships, and it could contain cultural differences, racial differences. And at ATN, we have come to realize that a significant majority, if not all, of our children who come to us with those histories also come with a certain level of trauma. So, what is trauma?
Ginger Healy.
Our focus here at the Attachment and Trauma Network is early childhood trauma and the attachment difficulties that often arise and accompany it, but we like to focus on relationship and how that can really help and heal early childhood trauma. And the definition that we really love comes from Dr. Bruce Perry at the Child Trauma Academy. Trauma is a psychologically distressing event that is outside the range of human experience. And trauma often involves intense fear, terror, helplessness. So I think the thing that we like to really point out here is that helplessness. You know, we cannot say with 100% accuracy that any child who has, for example, been in an orphanage for a year or has been sexually abused is going to be traumatized. It's different for everyone. There are things to consider, such as what was the impact? How long did the event occur? What skills and age was that child? Many, many things. But the reverse is true too. We don't pick our traumas. What may have been traumatizing to me may not be to someone else. And when you consider a very young child who may not have the verbal skills or the coping skills or the support network, it's going to, impact every person differently. So it just depends on a lot of things. And that's what kind of leads us to talk about resilience. Resilience is the ability to overcome hardships. We talk about being able to spring forward. And we also talk about navigating successfully through changing environments. And especially as we kind of go through this pandemic, I bet you're hearing that word resilience more and more, that we need it, that we want it. And we like to talk about how do we build that, because it's not necessarily something that you're born with. We all know that a baby is not born with the ability to pick up themselves by their bootstraps, right? A baby is born completely, totally dependent on the adults that they're surrounded by to take care of them. So we have to build that resilience. So let's talk about how we do that. And I absolutely love this punchline that we're going to give you because it brings so much hope. And Dr. Jack Shonoff from Harvard Center for the Developing Child. And as an aside, I hope that you will take the time to go to the website for Harvard Center for the Developing Child, because they have some absolutely fantastic education and resources that everybody can benefit from. But Dr. Shonoff...
The chat window switches briefly to Elizabeth, then back to Ginger.
I apologize. Dr. Shonoff tells us that the single most common factor for children to develop real resilience is at least one stable and committed relationship with a supportive parent, caregiver, and other adult. And I don't know about you, but that gives so much hope, Sometimes it makes us feel a little overwhelmed, puts a lot of pressure on some of us. I don't want you to feel pressure. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I want you to know that even being here today and listening to this means that you are on that path and that you care and that you are seeking out information and help to help build resilience. And for many, it's not just that one, it only takes that one. But if you think about people that you know who have come from hard places, any rags to riches story, if you peel back the layers of that story, you typically will find who in their life poured into them and made a difference and was stable and committed and filled them with that resilience that gave them the ability to meet their potential and keep moving forward. So we're going to keep continuing to talk about this throughout, but we always really start with talking about connection, or attachment, because we as humans are wired for connection. We are born for that. And, let me first say that, yes, attachment disorders are a real thing. But the good news there is that they are rare. Attachment difficulties, attachment problems, those are much more common. But what we know is that humans need to connect. We come wired to connect. So we like to talk about that attachment cycle. It's really important to go over what that means. And I know you all know this, but it really helps to kind of tie it all together. So baby comes into the world completely, totally defenseless, dependent on whoever is there to care for them. Baby has a need, baby cries, and then that need is met by a caregiver. And that cycle happens over and over again. And then trust begins to develop, and the baby starts to realize, if I make my needs known, my needs are met, and this person will meet my needs. And when we do that over and over again, that is how that healthy attachment builds. So that is why the reverse, when a baby cries, and for whatever reason, the person that is supposed to meet their needs doesn't respond, can't respond, is unable to respond, for whatever reason that response is not met, then what happens is that when that need is not met, then mistrust develops. And that really results in a shifting of that child's self-view and worldview. When a child's needs are met over and over, they think, I matter, I'm important, I'm valued, I have a purpose. And of course, then the reverse is true. They start to feel the opposite when their needs are not met. I don't matter. I'm worthless. I can only depend on myself. And it starts to feel very unsafe for that child, very unpredictable and scary, and mistrust develops. And so that's when we start to see attachment difficulties arise, and leading to many challenges. Anything else there, Julie?
I don't think so, except maybe to point out that, again, the vast majority of the children who come into our care as foster parents have had enough attachment disruptions, that's what the professionals would call it, to have some skewed views about the world and about themselves. And they don't necessarily articulate that. They don't say it because they're, it's their view. It's the way that that their early beginnings have ingrained who they are and how they fit in the world. So that presents a real challenge to us, because those of us who didn't have attachment difficulties as children ourselves have a really hard time understanding that a lot of times. The other point about attachment, and lots of people say to us, why are you the attachment and trauma network? Well, we view that attachment, that stable relationship, is the antidote to the trauma that our children have experienced. But also we have to understand what good, healthy attachment does. It builds that emotional relationship that Ginger was just talking about in the worldview. But the other thing it does that is equally important, and often we don't think about it, is that it builds our ability to calm down, our ability to regulate ourselves. And if you're parenting children who seem to be, oh, there's all kinds of words for it, out of control, dysregulated, losing their cookies all the time, melting down, having giant rages and tantrums like you've never seen before, the language would be that they're dysregulated. And the way that infants learn to be regulated is by borrowing that regulation from their caregiver. The caregiver comes and calms them down. We know that about infants. We pick them up when they're crying, we bounce them around, we do all kinds of things to comfort them. But their brains learn to self-regulate from that repetition. So a lot of times, at least for me, when my children were losing it big time, and I learned this about their early beginnings and their brains, it made a lot of sense for me to remind myself that this isn't a personal attack on what was just happened in our household. This is their inability to cope because their brain hasn't learned that yet. So that leads us to start talking about a little bit of brain science, which can be scary if you're afraid of learning a little bit of brain science. But I got to tell you, first of all, I'm a super brain geek, so I love this section of the slides. But I also want it to be something that is simple and memorable for us as parents. You don't have to have a PhD in neuropsychology to get this. In fact, you probably already know it. So we're just going to point it out to you here. These are what we call our 4 brain basics that parents should know. Number 1, your brain develops from the bottom up and the inside out. If you're a parent, you already know this because children are not born able to walk and talk, right? In part because their bodies can't do those things, but mostly because their brains can't do those things. They haven't developed there. So this little baby banker that's over here on the far left of your screen, he can't exist. He can't amortize loans. He can't serve you, if you need something at the bank because he doesn't know the math yet, and he won't until his brain is ready for that. It has to develop from the bottom up and the inside out. The same is true for our children emotionally. And the interesting thing is that it isn't necessarily tied to their age, to their chronological age. So if you have a child who's 10 and is behaving emotionally as a 3-year-old, well, guess what their brain is ready for? 3-year-old emotions, because that's really where they are developmentally. So it's good to remember that brain basic, and we kind of already get it. So brain basic number 2, use it or lose it. Just like the rest of our bodies, our brain gets stronger in the areas that we use, and if we don't use them, we lose them. So, if I went to the gym and I worked out my legs all the time and I never worked out my arms wouldn't build any muscle, but my legs would get really strong. So how does that impact brains? Well, if you're thinking about it in terms of our children's brains and whatever you know about the children in your care's history before they got to you, think about what parts of their brain would be used. It's likely that if they came from a situation where they were in a lot of danger, or they were witnessing somebody else being in danger, or there were other dangerous things happening, scary things happening in their world, that the part of their brain that contains their fight, flight, and freeze, the part that is called the limbic system, if you want the technical term, would be activated over and over and over again. So guess what happens to it? It gets big and strong, right? Because they're using it all the time. Now, the other parts of the brain, the parts within the limbic system that help to calm it down, and the other parts of the brain that help to self-soothe and regulate the child's brain, may not have gotten the same workout, right? Because we just talked about that cycle, about them not being able to actually calm down and actually self-regulate because they didn't have that regulatory on the top of them. So that's not as big and strong. In fact, there's a picture here of some pruners pruning off a branch, and that's to remind me to tell you that there's actually processes in the brain called pruning. So if you don't use something for for a particular amount of time, your brain prunes away, not physically prunes away your pieces of your brain, but prunes away the synaptic connections that are there to make your brain more efficient. Your brain is all the time growing and changing. Even our brains as adults, although not as fast as it does as children, is constantly trying to find ways to work more efficiently. So if you don't use it, you actually are going to lose it and have to build a new pathway to create something. That's why some of us like me who don't exercise very much find it really hard to start an exercise routine. We have to be very purposeful and very intentional and very repetitive for ourselves to get that habit. Habits have to be taught to ourselves over and over and over and over again for our brains to just start to do them. That's just the way we work. So the same thing for our children. If their brains didn't learn something, and we're talking by learning, we're talking about emotional development as much as we're talking about math and academic subjects. If they didn't learn it, it's gonna take a while developmentally to put that back, but it's not impossible. So this is the third tenet that kind of drives that home. What fires together, wires together. Because our brains are like an incredible superhuman, supercomputer type situation, the things that we do over and over and over again, and the things that we think and that we feel over and over again start to get wired together. Now, most of you probably, that I'm talking to, probably know how to drive a car. So this is a good example of how this works, right? So if you know how to drive a car, and now not everybody's like leaving to go to work like we used to, but you can remember back to every day you got in the car and you went to work somehow. So you got in the car, and chances were that you were out of your neighborhood or onto the main street or halfway to work before you even gave any kind of real thought, your frontal part of your brain's thought to driving, unless somebody cut you off in traffic or unless there was something out of the ordinary. You got in the car, backed out of your driveway. Hopefully you put your seatbelt on first, adjusted your mirror maybe, backed out of the driveway, headed out of where you live, got on the main street, probably without thinking about those steps. How could you do that? I mean, how could your brain do that without you thinking about that? When you were 16, you thought very distinctly about every single step. But you've done it every day since you were 16, over and over and over again. And now your brain has a sequence that is wired together in your brain, that if nothing unusual happens in that sequence, you're not cognitively, your thinking part of the brain isn't processing that. The same is true for all kinds of things that we do. I, for one, have a hard time remembering whether I brush my teeth at night or not. So I actually have been known to go over and feel my toothbrush to see if it's wet, because I'm thinking about the next day, or maybe I've had a fight with my husband, or there's like maybe a gazillion other things going on in my head, preparing for bedtime or assessing my day. And I just by almost rote brush my teeth because it's become that much of a wired in situation. So think about what could be wired in to the children that we care for. What could be wired in emotionally? In a lot of cases, it is chaos that's wired in emotionally, which is why, and this is so common for a lot of our families, we're like, we don't know what happened. The child just went from 0 to 60 emotionally like that. What happened? We don't understand why they got so upset over a TV show, a sound, a smell, a comment, whatever it was, something that seemed really benign, something that seemed not to have anything to do with anything to us, but it somehow was a trigger, and it sent them into this mood or situation or escalation that we don't understand. but it's because something's wired together. The same way you can actually wire calm into your brain. But again, you have to be purposeful about it, and you have to do it very, very deliberately over time. So the good news about this, because about this time when you start thinking about the children that you care for and the children that you love, and you're thinking, oh man, their brains have got so many things that need to be helped, need to be fixed, need to be worked on and resolved. So, but don't lose despair, because your brain can change. All of our brains can change. We know that because we are working on ourselves in terms of new habits and healthy behaviors and things along those lines. It's hard, but it can happen. Your brain is plastic. The actual technical term is called neuroplasticity, and it does continue to change, and we can purposely do that. So as a parent, as a foster parent, understanding that about our children's brains can lead us to do some things with our children that are good for their brains, are good for brain development, and help with that, to sort of stimulate that growth, if you will. One other example that we love to teach at the Attachment and Trauma Network, and hopefully you've seen this other places too, but if you haven't, we definitely want you to see this. This is called the Brain and Hand Model by Dr. Dan Siegel. And the reason that we think not only is that it's important for parents to know, but we also advise the parents to teach this to your children. It's a model of how our brains develop from the bottom up, from the inside out, and what can happen in the phenomenon that is called flipping your lid. So before I show you the model, I want to talk to you a little bit about flipping the lid. The diagram's here, and it's got a lot of the technical terms for you, the pieces of the brain that may or may not excite you and make you want to geek out, or they may confuse you. But the flipping your lid part, I don't think there's anybody in the sound of my voice who hasn't flipped their lid. In fact, some of us have already flipped our lids today. I know I have. I mean, I opened an email, it said something I didn't like, it said something that upset me and frustrated me, and I could feel the emotions coming up inside of me, right? And I could feel it. And so the next person who either walked in my office or called me on the phone was probably gonna get it emotionally. I was probably gonna blow up at that person because my brain was about ready to flip. Now, we've all had that feeling before. Every human being has it. The nice thing about teaching this model to your children about the way your brain works is that it normalizes the fact that we all flip our lids. Now, children who've come from hard places, children who have lots of a background of trauma, especially attachment relational kind of trauma that we're talking about today, may flip their lids way more than the average child. But the importance is that when we look at this hand and brain model, we can show children that this is normal. It's normal for our brains to flip. The question becomes, what do we do to keep it from flipping, or what do we do after they flip? So here it is. Ginger and I are both going to do it. You can do it with your own hand.
She holds up her right hand.
This is your brain stem.
The wrist.
Here at the fat part of your hand, this is your cerebellum, the part that controls your breathing and the things that we don't ever think about, your breathing, your heart rate, all of those things. If you fold your thumb in, this is that limbic system, that emotional. So from the inside out, from the bottom up, little infants, even though their physical brain looks complete, their actual functioning of their brain is about here, right? This part here that curls over the top, the cortex, the thinking part of your brain, hasn't really come online yet. That's why infants don't have language, they don't have deep strategic thought, all of those things. So when you curl this around and you tuck your nails up underneath here, then this is your cortex, and this is your prefrontal cortex, right where the nails are, right? And that's the part that's uniquely human for us. And the part that we can strategically plan, that we can anticipate things, that we can multitask, is all right there. That part doesn't really come online until at least puberty, and then kind of continues to mature. Now the brain scientists say clear up through age 30. So there's a lot of maturity that goes on there. So we're walking along with our little brain, something happens, and our amygdala sends an alarm system, and we start to, this starts to flip out, right? And if we don't get control of that with this thinking brain, whoop, we flip our lids, and sometimes we flip our slides. And that's a problem, right? But if we recognize when it's starting to go like this, then there are things we can do to calm ourselves down, and that's called self-regulation. So the cool thing that we've seen both in schools and we've seen in person and families is that if we teach our children this, they can start using this as their tool to describe, my brain's feeling like it's about to flip. And then we can help them, remind them of the tools that they've been taught, or teach them more tools if they're still able to think, to calm down. Once this happens, once your lid actually flips, you cannot think, not logically think. And I know we've all had that experience. I'm so angry, I'm so upset, I'm so out of sorts that I can't solve the problem with my head. I can't get inside and do the thinking pieces that need to do. I have to do something. I have to take a break. I have to calm down. I have to call my friend. I have to take a walk. I have to, whatever it is that we use for our calm down tools. So that's really what I wanted to share about the brain and hand model. Do you have anything else, Ginger, before we move on?
No, that's great. You can also teach kids that when it starts to flip, it's yellow. When it's down, it's green. When it's up, it's red, so that you can just use that common language and give them the ability and control to express what they're feeling without having to use the parts that they can't have access to in those moments. So it gives kids a lot of power and control.
A photo of a girl sticking out her tongue.
We talk about parenting that whole brain of the child, and it's all going to come together. We really want to give you some really good, easy, sound tips to really do that. And part of that is what we call this paradigm shift of thinking differently about our kids than we may have viewed them before, looking at them through a different lens. And one of the ways we can do that is how we view their behavior. If we really are able to take the emotions out and look at their behavior as communication, they're trying to communicate something to us, because most of the time, these kids don't have the language skills. They don't have the ability to verbally say, here's what's going on. Here's why I'm mad. Here's what I need. We're way beyond that, especially when you really take into consideration developmental age versus chronological age. I think that's one of the best things you can do, is remember that although this child may be chronologically 10 years old, they are likely 3 or 4 or 5 years old developmentally, which means you're going to parent them and take care of them at that developmental age, not at that chronological age. So when you're looking at their behavior, it puts it into a different perspective. So I want you to think about what's really going on underneath that behavior. They're trying to communicate something, and it comes out in those reactions, especially in overreactions. But there is a neurobiological basis for those behaviors, for those reactions, especially the overreactions. And now that you know that a child cannot access that prefrontal cortex until they're a certain age, or a certain emotional age, or are calm and regulated, that helps you to understand more that they are not in control of those reactions. That's when we get to be a detective, and we get to be really curious. What is going on? What's changed? What happened? Did you sleep well last night? Have you eaten yet today? At least with my kids, it comes down a lot to eating and sleeping and things that I didn't witness, but something happened. So giving them that benefit of the doubt and being a detective and figuring it out with them. Here's another really big shift I want you to think about, and it's called can't versus won't. 9 times out of 10, we have expectations for our child, and we ask them to do something, and they do not do that. And we think, why won't they do that? When in reality, they cannot do what we have asked them to do. And it is because their lid is flipped. And sometimes we think that flipping of the lid means screaming, crying, hitting, throwing, spitting. Yes, it does mean that. But for a lot of our kids, it's flight or freeze, which means deer in the headlights.
Julie nods.
No response. It used to be kind of a button pusher for me when I would ask my son, what's wrong? And he would say, I don't know. Well, once I learned that he truly did not know what was going on, what happened, he didn't even know what I had asked him to do because he wasn't there. He had checked out. He had disassociated. He could not answer my questions, could not perform whatever task I had asked him to do. You know, it felt manipulative sometimes, but I learned very quickly this was not manipulation. This was that he couldn't. So I want you to try to keep that in mind, can't versus won't, and give your child the benefit of the doubt that they cannot. Whatever it is, whatever follows that, they can't do their homework, they can't do whatever you're asking them to do. But like Julie mentioned, the best news about that all, and the tips that we're going to give from here on out, are because we can change their brains. We can rewire their brains. We can, parent in a different way that helps them respond in a different way.
A photo of a smiling father and teenage daughter.
Exactly, which is part of the incredible wisdom in the quote about the importance, the single most important factor in our children's lives is that one stable, committed adult. So while at ATN we talk a lot about therapy being important, about medication being a possibility sometimes, about all kinds of therapies and interventions having an impact. The biggest impact can really come from what we do day after day. But it's hard because that can't versus won't gets in the way because it feels so personal. Sometimes a child does something one day and it doesn't do it the next day, and we're thinking, but wait, he was able to set the table without arguing with me for the whole week, and now all of a sudden he's wanting to argue with me. What made him do that? And we have to explore that. And then sometimes it feels incredibly personal because the words and the actions are personal. If you've been spit on, if you've had a child defiantly say, you're not my real parent, you're not the boss of me, you can't tell me what to do, I hate you, you're the worst parent I've ever had, all of those really ugly, wounding things. It's really hard to hear that and not flip our lids ourselves. So we have to practice what we preach in terms of understanding how to take care of ourselves so that our lids don't flip and we can respond in a much more therapeutic way. Therapeutic does not mean we have degrees and practice therapy. It means that we're doing something that's healing to the child. So our flipped lid, our response of anger, frustration, our fight, flight, or freeze to their behavior is not going to help them heal. It's not going to help their brain get the practice in regulating themselves. So we have to figure out a different way. And the way that we do this at ATN is called the PATH parenting model. It is a framework. It's not an actual model. I said model, didn't mean to. And the way that it was developed is that we know that there are a lot of good trauma-informed, attachment-focused parenting models out there. A couple off the top of the head that come to mind: Circle of Security, TBRI. There will be others referenced here and others at the end of the list. But when we made this framework, we took all of those models, explored them deeply, and said, what do they have in common? What are the things that must be in place for us really to have a therapeutic framework to help heal trauma and build attachment? So that's what you're about to see We're going to go through it really briefly. We're obviously not going to train you in this framework, but we're going to talk to you about this through a set of parenting cards that we have made that talk about the essentials of this path parenting. And here are the 5 that deal with our parenting essentials. And there are 3 more that actually talk about essentials for ourselves in a self-care realm. But these are the 5 we're going to focus on today.
Photos of animals and their offspring.
We use animals to do this, mostly because we were making these for ourselves as much as anybody else, because a lot of the staff and volunteers at ATN are adoptive and foster parents, and we're like, what are good reminders and quick reminders to us of the tenets, the essential tenets of this path parenting? So the first one is the bear.
Fear.
To help everyone in the family feel safe. It is really important, and this is the only one that really comes in a true order. The others can, just sort of flow in and out in terms of we need to remember them and use them as we can. But the most important thing that we can do is that we can keep everybody in the family safe. If people in the family are not safe, if you're in a situation right now that people in the family, whoever they are, children or parents, are not feeling safe, then you need to take some action. You have to address it. It's really important. You cannot create stability, connectedness, any of the things we've been talking about without safety first. And that means everyone must feel safe, including the parents. I know a lot of us foster parents, a lot of us adoptive parents, we're huge givers, and we're really trying to help the children who come from really tough places. And sometimes those children bring with them really dangerous behaviors. And we have to be smart that everybody in the family is safe, and we need to get help if that's not the situation. And everybody, I mean us too. I mean, we don't need to be in harm's way. It's not good for any of us. I hope I haven't frozen here. I'm good. Okay.
Ginger Healy.
Yep.
And I think the big thing with structure and nurture is the balance. High structure, high nurture. And that's really what kids need in order to thrive and blossom. That means that the structure is not too disciplined, not too authoritarian, but on the other end, the nurture is not too permissive. It really kind of requires a balance between the two. And that comes through loving boundaries, because of course boundaries have to be set. We've talked about safety. Safety is non-negotiable. That's number 1. But boundaries set in a really loving way. And that comes into play when you're talking about transitions. One of my sons in particular especially needs to know ahead of time what the plan is. Change is really hard for our kids. It can be a real big trigger. So we have to really be aware of that and be intentional about the plan. And we do that also by keeping their world small. And this can be really tricky, I understand, especially with other children in the home, children in the neighborhood. In our world today, we have a lot of kids doing multiple things: scouts, soccer, music, camp, on and on and on. And it keeps them really busy. But for our kids, sometimes we have to dial it way back down and just focus on the family unit. Focus on keeping their world really small. They may not emotionally, developmentally be able to handle all of those things. Having them go different places, that has to do with the transitions, So keeping their world really small, really simple, and focusing on the attachment and the connection is really the best thing you can do within that. And then, of course, that direct communication. A lot of our kids, I think tone, volume, and cadence of our voice is key when we talk to our kids. It can really make a difference. Eye contact, and our kids do not respond well to yelling, and so we have to be very careful with the authoritarian stance. It doesn't work. No one in the history of history has calmed down by being yelled at. Calm down. Right. It just doesn't work. So we have to be careful that the things we do with our kids don't make things worse because of their wiring. You know what I mean? We don't want to strengthen the wiring that they have in their head, that
Mhm.
they're worthless and that they're being yelled at. So we have to really watch our language and our communication skills. And I think that's what that next slide talks about, is just that balance in between, that they need to feel safe and they need to feel seen. And so that's kind of how we do that. I think that's that next slide.
In photos, a toddler glides down a slide toward his father's outstretched arms. A mother and young daughter smile as they talk. Structure and nurture in balance.
Just that balance in between the two.
Right. Yeah, and the hard part about that is that I never get it right. I never get a perfect day when I've done my structure and nurture balance in perfect day. A lot of it depends on how I was raised. I was raised in a pretty authoritarian family, and so it's very easy for me to go to the structure side. You must do it, and you must do it my way. So then I have to figure out how to infuse more of the nurture. People who were in more of a permissive or free-flowing family, maybe to the far degrees where there wasn't any structure, have to work hard to get the boundaries and the systems in place. So we have to know that for ourselves so that we know what to work on.
A photo of a horse and her foal. Now, Ginger Healy.
And this one is getting regulated. And regulation is the ability to manage your emotions. It's the skills we use to calm ourselves. And I hope you've heard us using that, because it is just such a key tenet of what we believe in, is how we calm. And maybe the next one kind of goes through all the different ways that we can kind of regulate, talking about co-regulation and holding space. I may be getting ahead of myself here, Julie.
In the next slide, a woman relaxing in her robe holds a tea mug. 3 steps to teaching regulation. Julie's chat window pops up.
Here I am. I don't know. I may be lagging a little bit here, but really the importance here is that we know that we have to actively teach this, right? Because remember, they didn't get it when they were little. If you have biological children, those children's lids don't flip as often because they know how to calm themselves down. It's really kind of amazing that we have to teach this, but we have to teach it from a place of calm ourselves. So if we're upset, if we're screaming, calm down, now is not a time to teach it. Now is a time for us to go get calm ourselves. Do what we got to do. Take a coffee break like this woman is doing here. Then there are steps called co-regulation.
Step 2.
Which is really letting these children, just like an infant would borrow that regulation from us when we bounce them around and we sing them lullabies. This is helping children, regardless of their age, borrow that regulation from us. When Ginger was talking about that whole tone thing, one of the skills that I've picked up that's been so valuable with a dysregulated child is to attempt to whisper or get soft or get quiet, because my children usually want to hear what I'm about to lay down when they've done something behaviorally they know they weren't supposed to do as their lids were flipping. So, instead of that surprise volume that matches theirs, that whisper makes them lean in. That whisper makes them get quiet. And then just being present with them, just reflecting back a calm, saying, man, that must feel really, really hard, and giving them a chance. Their physiological, their brain system, giving it a chance to calm itself down. And a lot of times I just do that by calming myself down, by sitting there quietly next to them, breathing deeply. And a lot of times their bodies and their systems will eventually mirror mine. Why? Why does that happen that way? Sometimes they'll spin out of control for a while, maybe. Hopefully not hurting property, definitely not hurting themselves. You got to intervene if that's happening, or other people. But why do they then start to calm down?
Co-regulating with mirror neurons.
We've got these things in our brain called mirror neurons. If you're walking down the street and somebody smiles at you, now these days they're wearing masks, so you don't see that. But if you did see them smile at you, you would have to fight back the urge to smile. If a baby is cooing and laughing and you're holding that baby, chances are pretty good that you are mirroring that coo laugh back, because we're wired to do this. So because we know now that we're wired to do this, we can control that relationship, right? And so instead of the kid screaming and the dad screaming, the dad can smile, the dad can connect, the dad can represent calm. And that will very often, not always, because nothing ever works 100%, help you to help the child to mirror back that calm.
Step 3.
And then finally, when their thinking brain is online, even before they flip their lids, we are actively teaching ways to calm down, ways to help ourselves, whatever that is. This picture's yoga. It could be it could be anything. Dr. Bruce Perry talks about a lot of about the 6 R's.
Relational, relevant, repetitive, rewarding, rhythmic, and respectful.
And then, and the interesting thing, one in here is something that is repetitive, it's pleasurable, rewarding, and it's rhythmic. So lots of singing, dancing, drumming. Drumming is fun. If you've ever had an opportunity to do that, how fun is that? Those types of things. In my kitchen, a lot of times we sing and dance. We sing and dance while we're preparing meals. We have, we make up words to songs and about our day, all kinds of that, because it not only is it playful, but it's also rhythmic, and it's also rewarding to dance around the kitchen, right? And so it's just that whole thing. That's one of the things we do. Other families do all kinds of other things, but the idea is that it's repetitive, it's rewarding, it's rhythmic, obviously it's safe and relevant and respectful as well.
Staying connected. In a photo, a pair of otters float on their backs. Ginger Healy.
We love this picture. This is a mom and baby otter holding hands. And if you know anything about otters, you'll see them doing this often. It's called rifting. And it is a way for them to not lose each other when they are floating in the water or sleeping. And that just helps us to remember that connection, I get emotional about this, how important connection is, and that we need to stay and do that.
Connection before correction.
It is especially hard when our children are pushing us away, right? Mm-hmm. I can see all of you nodding your heads like, yeah, that's the goal. Yeah, we want to do that. But how do we do that? It is hard, especially when we have the older kids that are pushing us away. But there are a lot of things that we can do. And Connection Before Correction by Karen Purvis, that is our TBRI model. We go with a lot of different models and framework in order to bring this together. And the other one here, the playful, attuned, curious, empathetic, that's Dr. Hughes' PACE model. And those are ideas to help you remember how to stay connected. And being playful is one of them. Keeping it light, keeping it happy. We get really involved in these big, huge emotions that our kids have. And if we can pull out all the negative and just come back in with a more playful attitude, letting some things go, which I know is really hard, but letting things go and, picking the lighter battles, being attuned to what they really need, being present, putting the distractions away, just holding that space for them. And then we also talked about being the detective and being curious, what is underneath that behavior? And then of course, that empathy. We know how hard this is and what our kids have gone through. We can't even imagine what all these kids have gone through. So knowing that what they have gone through has brought them to where they are today, and that we can change that will really kind of help stay connected to our kids.
A photo of a penguin with a chick.
And then our father penguin, all that we have been talking about today is that being intentional. We have to have a plan. We cannot fly by the seat of our pants. That is the difference between parenting the children through foster care or adoption. Children with traumatic backgrounds require intentional parenting. Mm-hmm. We've got to be there, be present, parent with a purpose. We have to have our spouses or our partners that we are co-parenting with on board with us. And, we've talked a lot about staying regulated in order to mirror that and reflect that back. So,
right.
Julie Beam.
And one of the reasons we picked this emperor penguin, one is because he's a dad, and we wanted to make sure that dads got thrown into the mix here. We had the mama bear early, but the male emperor penguin actually holds the egg on his feet and keeps it warm. I believe it's 60 days before that hatches.
Long time.
So that's a pretty good intention, right? Standing there in the frigid Antarctic, holding an egg on your feet, keeping it warm, and that's why you get these cute little pictures of the newly hatched babies underneath the male emperor penguin. And actually, some of the literature we read said the moms were off having a spa day. That they actually go to the ocean and swim while they're waiting for the eggs to hatch. Which leads us to the last point we want to make about this type of path parenting that we read, and that is that in order to continue to pour in, and it says adoptive children, but it's true for foster children or any children who've had a background of trauma, parents really need to pour into these children so much that we need to be able to make sure that our own cups are full.
A drawing of a soccer mom and a photo of firefighters captioned first responder.
Adjusting our expectations by realizing that our parenting, our foster parenting, our adoptive parenting is not a typical parenting. And we may have come in, especially if we're adoptive families, foster families are pretty savvy. We especially after the first couple of placements, really start to get an idea of what we're up against, and then we go to trainings and we get good support. But regardless, this isn't your typical soccer mom situation. A lot of times it feels like we're rushing into a fire, because in a way we are rushing into a fire. And our role is all of these things. We have a job description that isn't a typical parenting job description. We have to work on that therapeutic healing aspect that we've talked so much about today, the responder, the trauma worker, and then we also have to advocate on behalf of these children in a lot of arenas. It may be explaining to a doctor how our child is different because of their early childhood trauma. It could be advocating directly with the school system or any other number of situations. And in order to do all of those things, we have to take care of ourselves.
Access to help.
We have to ask for through the systems and insist upon getting through systems and through other organizations of support, training, a break from the front lines. If respite is offered to you, take it. If respite isn't offered to you, ask for it, insist upon it. Figure out a way to get it. You've got to have a break. Parents who are parenting typical non-traumatized children go out sometimes. Maybe not in this current environment as much as usual, but you do need a break away, a break to think. You need a chance to grieve anything that you are feeling, a chance to address. You might need to get yourself your own counselor or therapist. A lot of us have, and it's been an incredible benefit. And you need support groups. And if you don't have one, we have one for you at ATN. No doubt about that.
# one caring adult.
Again, we want to drive home the importance of exactly this. Relationships are the agent of change, and the most powerful therapy is human love. So it's good to get your kids in therapy. It's good to get their counselors, their attachment-focused trauma informed counseling and therapy on board. But the most important thing is what's happening right there in your home.
A list of suggested resources.
Here, we'll stop here and then tell Elizabeth that we're ready to take any questions or answers so that you can have this slide up. These are a whole lot of resources. There's probably twice this many. The Center for Developing Child is here, and lots of great books by people that we would highly recommend. Thank you all. What questions can we answer?
Elizabeth Kramer.
Thank you so much, Julie and Ginger. That was a lot of really great information. And I really appreciated you including the topic of self-care, which I think is so important. And I absolutely loved the picture that you had of the soccer mom and the first responder. I definitely associate more with one than the other. I won't tell you which one. We do have quite a few questions that have come in throughout the discussion, and also I would encourage our audience, if you have questions, please go ahead and put those in the chat box for us or in the Q&A section, and we'll go through them. First one, just housekeeping. After this is over, are you all able and willing to share your slides? Can we go ahead and send those out to our participants?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything in these slides
Okay.
we're not willing to share. Definitely we will get you a slide deck that you can share out.
Wonderful. If you could do that, I will see to it that it gets to the participants. And several of you also have asked, again, the recorded webinar will be made available on the National Foster Parent Association website in their training section. So obviously, if you're here and you're hearing us, if if you either want to watch it again or if you want to send others to watch it, that's where you'll be able to find it.
www.attachedtrauma.org.
Have you ever seen, or do you ever see that an infant maybe once felt attachment or experienced attachment, but an event or a change of home environment created an attachment problem?
Julie Beam.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, because depending on what that is, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not necessarily something that happens.
I mean, as Ginger said, we don't get to pick our trauma, so it could be felt traumatizing to the child, right?
Ginger Healy.
Yeah, things happen through the lifespan. And the best thing, we didn't get into it, but there is something called earned secure attachment, which means that we can have attachment struggles throughout our life, but we can continue to earn that secure attachment style and work on it. It's a lifelong, it can be a lifelong process, and we can build resilience at the same time to help that attachment strengthen.
Excellent.
Elizabeth Kramer.
So sorry, I'm trying to work two computers at the same time. So opening up the questions on one and watching you all on the other. How do we create attachment with older children? That could be its own
children can be
webinar.
Ginger Healy.
That's exactly right. But there is absolutely, you can. Our brains are plastic and attachment continues to grow and change. So there's a lot you can do with older kids. You've got to be creative. And you can regress older kids, when they're willing a little bit, because as we mentioned, they may be a teenager chronologically, but likely they are not a teenager developmentally. Mm-hmm. So it's okay to parent them at a younger age and do connecting things with them that you would do with a younger child. Find what they enjoy, what they like, and just pour into them all the connection and presence and regulation you can, and that will help build connection. But we can talk later if you want to email about specific ways and ideas and tips and tricks on how to do that.
Elizabeth.
Fantastic. I love what you said too about that sometimes children are developmentally younger than their chronological age, and it reminded me, going back to your soccer mom graphic, I think that's where you get a lot of well-intentioned but false advice from other people who will say, oh, you're babying that child, but they don't know that you're actually, what you're doing is you're responding to the emotional age of your child and not the chronological age of your child. So I think sometimes the best advice we can give to people is to ignore the well-meaning advice of friends and neighbors who don't necessarily know all of what your child has experienced.
Ginger.
You have to develop a little bit of a thicker skin. Mm-hmm. It is different. It is not less, it's just different. Mm-hmm. And we have to do what is best and right. And others may not understand that. We can educate them along the way, but we've got to have that confidence that we know what we're doing and we're moving forward. And we make a lot of mistakes along the way, and mistakes are great. They teach our kids to make mistakes, and that you can repair your mistakes. You can fix your mistakes. I make a trillion mistakes. And so I just have to go, oh, learning experience, here we go.
So this next question goes back a little bit closer to the beginning of the presentation. I think, Julie, you had given the example of a child who, or maybe, I can't remember actually, maybe it was you, Ginger, a child that, every day this week did just fine setting the table. And then today I asked him to set the table and he melts down and he's really just not capable of it, but you think, well, he's just, maybe manipulating me. And so the question is, how do you know which it is? Because sometimes kids will try to just get you to do things that they don't want to do, or they want you to do it for them.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, as soon as I said yes, Julie, now we can't. So, Ginger, I don't know if you want to jump in, and when Julie's audio starts up again, we can have her answer as well.
Absolutely. Sometimes I think it matters. Sometimes I think it doesn't, because at the end of the day, we still have to handle the situation, whether it's manipulation or not. There is something going on behind that manipulation that they needed to do that. So, sometimes it pushes our buttons and it makes it hard to respond. So, we have to watch for that. But most of the time, it doesn't matter if it's manipulation, because there was a reason behind that behavior. And once we can figure out what the reason is, we can address why they needed to do that so that they don't need to do that in the future. Mm-hmm. Do you want to respond, Julie?
Yep, I think you're back.
I think I'm back too. Now, I was just going to probably say exactly what you said, which is that it doesn't really matter whether it's, whether they're, if they're manipulating you, it's because they need something, yes. Right? They need something. So, so the manipulation is the way you feel on the inside, as opposed to what they're actually doing. So if you can play detective, be curious, get underneath what's really going on there. And it could be something as simple as something physically is bothering them in the situation. We did a lot of detective work with my daughter and some sensory things as to why she acted out in reading class on some days and not on other days. And the detective answer ended up being, it was the days that she rode the bus because of all of the sensory insults of riding the bus and walking through when the bell rang and all of the things. But it took us weeks to get to why only on these days versus these other days was she struggling so it could be something that complex, or it could just be they had a bad day and they don't know how to talk about it.
Excellent point. Also, going back a little closer to the beginning, we have some comments about trauma and brain development, and more a comment than a question, just noting that it begins really in utero, and that if there's substance abuse by a birth parent or substance use by a birth parent, that can certainly impact brain development and cause trauma in utero.
Definitely.
And same person noted, and I'm actually going to read this verbatim so that I don't accidentally change the comment. While it's fresh in my mind, last night my son and I had a first in-person visit with a behavioral pediatrician to address his neuropsychologically assessed ADHD inattentive subtype. And when we were discussing our forever family and I mentioned his trauma because of adoption, she, I assume the pediatrician, asked, but he's been in your home since he was 48 hours old. How could his adoption be traumatic for him? And she was serious and I was aghast. So how do we get this information out to the medical community, especially those who are specializing in healthcare for children?
I don't know.
That's a fair answer. It is.
Except I'm there with you, sister, because I've been in those neuropsych developmental pediatrician meetings before and had very similar responses. What I do know is that the American Pediatrics Academy does have some documentation out there on trauma, not so much on attachment, because when they look at traumatized children, they're looking at a much bigger group of children than the ones that actually find themselves in our care. Our children are really the tip of that iceberg. But there is a growing understanding. Dr. Nadine Burke in California, who is a pediatrician herself and is now the first Surgeon General of the state of California, is highly trauma informed. There's a growing movement among some pediatricians to get this information out there. But yes, it's, the brain science is there, and even without drug and alcohol situations in utero with your child, stress hormones, the corrosiveness to developing brains of cortisol in particular, of the stress hormones of the mom, can can cause problems, can definitely cause problems. And it's, and the other thing that one would think someone who'd studied pediatrics would know is that when a child is separated from the person in which they had resided for 9 months, they're going to know that. I mean, they're not going to be able to state that as a 5-year-old, but at that point, they're going to know that they've lost that connection, that person, and how else to manifest that as an infant than in behaviors. So I think you're right on track in pointing out that the trauma and that what they might be seeing as ADHD might actually be a hypervigilant response instead of a hyperactive response, in that they're scanning their environment for safety. So all of those things need to be looked at. Sadly, the professionals that you're using might not be willing to learn that from a mom or even from us, although we'd be happy to help if there was anything you felt we could do to help in that.
I think you can refer her to Dr. Burke Harris's TED Talk. It's short and sweet and to the point. And if they have not read the ACEs study and learned about ACEs, you need to point them toward the ACE study. We didn't have time to discuss that today, but that changes everything.
Right.
Excellent. Somewhat related comment. It's extremely validating and affirming, Ginger, to hear about your son and his checking out. My son does the same both cognitively and behaviorally, and I've always assumed that it's something I've been doing to him rather than something that's happening to him without my involvement.
Yeah, I'm sending big hugs to all of you. This is hard. It is hard, and I make mistakes a lot, and I used to take a lot of things personally. We keep going, and you are not alone. You are not alone. So.
Excellent. Ginger, are you able to talk a little more about your comment about frustrations when a child answers, I don't know? Like, what are some healthy responses that have worked for you?
Yeah, you can help them. Okay, before a child can really answer your questions, they have to be calm. They have to. They can't access the memory. They can't access language. They can't access the part of their brain that will help them discuss and answer questions. So start with safety, start with regulation. Once they are calm, and you'll know that by their ability to kind of volley back and forth in a very gentle way, then when they do answer, I don't know, really, they don't know. So you can help them by saying, I'm wondering if you got enough sleep last night. I'm wondering if you're feeling scared. I'm wondering if something happened that, I don't know. You can kind of, without giving them the answer, because you may not know the answer either, kind of play that I wonder game with them. And then they go, oh, maybe, I don't know. But just sometimes we have to let it go. And that maybe later they can come back and go, you know what, I've been thinking about it, and you might have been right, Mom. Or maybe whatever the answer is.
Got it. Perfect. So interesting question, and I think really drives home the point that our children are our children even when they're not legally children anymore. So the question is, I adopted my daughter at the age of 23. I did not get her into foster care until she was 17. She's now 25. I took her out of an institution with barbed wire over the top where she was placed due to suicidal tendencies. I still struggle with attachment. What can I do for her at this age to increase attachment?
You can just keep trying. Really, that's it. With our young adult kids, it's really hard because developmentally it's time to separate. So there's so developmentally she doesn't need you in the way that she or need that attachment person in the same ways. So your relationship is probably always going to be a little bit different than what it could have been otherwise. And that's something, I mean, I'm sorry about that. That's something that's going to have to be grieved on both of your sides. But there's always hope. I mean, that from a brain science standpoint, they've now extended, the brain development until 30, the active brain development until 30. And I can attest, having kids in their 20s and 30s, that, yeah, there's something that happens in your late 20s and early 30s that is different. And so, if you were struggling before that, there's another opportunity for your brain to take things in and become more reflective. And if she seems to push away at 25, it doesn't mean that she's always going to push away. That's I think that's the takeaway. So leaving your emotional door open, continuing to try to connect, doing things for her. Also, when she's open to talking about it, explaining to her the science of what happened to her, of what, there are support groups out through ACEs Connection and other places for adults who have significant backgrounds of trauma, significant ACE scores. And she might be able to use some of that. And then you're standing there waiting to help her with an attachment and a connection. And that's a good place for her to be when she's ready and if she's ready.
Mm-hmm. You've mentioned ACEs several times, and for those of you who may not be familiar with it, that's the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, and I went ahead and wrote that out in the comment box if any of you are interested in learning more about that. We also had a question just asking about specific respite care resources in Massachusetts. I put in the Q&A box a couple of related organizations lists from the Child Welfare Information Gateway site that can enable you to search by state, but I did want to put that out to our presenters as well. Do you have any?
Awesome. I do know in Massachusetts, I mean, here's your lucky day because I don't know all 50 cities, but in Massachusetts.
It's a quiz. We're going to go through all of them and ask you.
Organization called Adoption Journeys for adoptive parents, and it doesn't matter whether you adopted through child welfare privately or internationally, they will work with you. And I know that they have chapters around the state doing post-adoptive work, Adoption Journeys. So if that's helpful.
Okay, perfect. So next, we have a lot of questions. You all have definitely sparked a lot of questions and comments, which is wonderful to see. So you all talked about safety being non-negotiable and safety being first. So what do you do when a child who is acting out and it's manifesting physically? They're kicking, they're biting, and they're doing something that really places themselves or the people around them at risk for physical harm. And in this specific case, the child is 7. He's been doing it since it was 3. I imagine there's different techniques based on sort of the age and the size of the child, but what are some of the things that you recommend in those situations?
The first thing I recommend is getting ahead of that. If you can figure out when that's about to happen, when his brain is here instead of here, then whatever you can do to calm, to help, and you have to, I mean, the parents who deal with this kind of behavior are often have to become the most creative. It could be taking a physical break. It could be, if he isn't adverse to touch, it could be something as simple as, as hugging, as swinging. We use a porch swing a lot, as massaging his shoulders. I mean, if he is adverse to touch, then you've got a different ball game going on there, because a lot of times our kids have got sensory things too. We used this little magical stuff called magnesium cream that you can buy. It's actually Epsom salt dissolved into a cream, and I cannot tell you, except that magnesium is a calming thing. I cannot tell you why it works so effectively with my daughter, but it did. And so if I could catch her before she was completely escalated, because then of course touching her would just ramp things up, but I would say, can I give you a little arm rub or back rub or whatever, and I would use that cream and massage it in, and it would help. If you're in the moment, the help is get them to the safest place possible. stay as nearby as you can safely stay. If you have to put a door or a half wall or some kind of barrier between you, if what the child is doing damages property versus damages humans, that's kind of where I always drew the line. I mean, it's sad when a child's dysregulation breaks things in my house, but it's not the end of the world. It's the end of the world when the child gets hurt, or I get hurt, or other children or pets get hurt. So that's kind of, it's like whatever your safety plan is there. Ultimately, that's easier if you have other people in the home that can help enact that safety plan. And if it's happening a whole lot, then you have to start looking about why it's happening. What can we do? Can we get other people involved? Can we get medication involved? Do we need the doctor to help us figure out if we need other hospital interventions or whatever, depending on how big that problem gets. But the initial is, what can I do to know when it's about to happen? My daughter made a very distinct noise, a little grunt, that meant she was struggling. And that grunt became my trigger for a while, but once I realized that if I could do something, if I could act at that grunt, then I could help her figure out how to regulate, if that makes sense.
I think that's such an interesting observation that you made too about your own sort of visceral response to her trigger.
Yeah. And if she makes that, she's 23 years old and she still lives in our home, and she does not flip her lid in a dangerous way. But every once in a while she gets frustrated and she still makes that little noise. And my central nervous system responds every time. And I have to go, okay, hang on, calm down. Everything's good. But I usually go check on her and I hear that noise and say, what's going on? Because I recognize that she's feeling frustrated.
That cortisol can really build up in kids all day long. So if they can get rid of it through the day, jumping on the tramp, running outside, playing with animals, that usually will help get ahead of it. The Epsom salt baths made a world of difference for my kids too, like the cream. So getting ahead of it
never
is
heard
great.
that before.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So we have a comment, but I'm going to actually turn it into a question as well, because I feel the need to respond to it. The comment is, I never really felt loved much by my mother, and I was once thrown out of the house at the age of 18, which created a lot of trauma. And so well, I think my first response is that I'm just so tremendously sorry that was this person's experience. And my question for you all then is, as an adult, when you can reflect back on your past and realize that you've experienced trauma that is impacting you in various ways, what are some of the things that we as adults can do to address our own past experiences of trauma?
I think there's lots that we can do. We we had a summit a couple of years ago where we interviewed some adult trauma survivors, and they all healed themselves in different ways. It was really beautiful. So it's a personal thing, but a lot did journaling, and a lot did therapy, and a lot did support groups, and on and on and on. But there is so much hope in that, and just recognizing that you're not alone. And we're talking about trauma a lot more these days. We're talking, ACEs is becoming a word that we use often. So you're not alone, and so there is a lot out there. I would get on ACEs Connection and join some support there, and then find what feels good to you, whether it be journaling and talking about it, or yoga, or all those things that you can. If you haven't read The Body Keeps the Score, please read that. It is such a healing tool for adult trauma survivors.
Well, and directly into therapy as well, if that's what if you're able to get to a therapist who's using any number of trauma informed therapies, like EMDR, like like even DBT, or other narrative work, like with the journaling and that type of thing. That, I mean, all of those things are great tools, but be proactive to do that, especially if you're in a situation where you're parenting now, or you're thinking about parenting in the future. You want to understand, you want to help yourself get to what Ginger talked about, being earned secure attachment, so that you're ready to help the children that come into your lives get healthy attachment as well. And the way to do that is to address your own stuff. And even those of us who've had relatively healthy early lives still had a lot of that stuff, and so it's good to
Sure.
do.
And I think sometimes our own experiences of trauma in the past are maybe what have brought us to becoming involved in the child welfare system, or to become adoptive parents or foster parents in some ways, is to try to give back. And so I think it is so important to make sure that we have sort of identified and addressed our issues so that we have a full cup from which to pour into these children. This is a pretty specific question, so it may be something that the asker can follow up with you via email, but I will put it out there, maybe just for a quick response. When should I consider medication for a 9-year-old adopted daughter from trauma who is developmentally 3 to 6 years old and has rage issues, tries to break windows and doors, and is diagnosed with 22q deletion syndrome, which has been correlated to anger and lack of self-control?
I think that's such a personal thing, in terms of when you decide to use medication, although she sure has a lot of, there's a lot of indicators as to why you should do that at this point. How old again?
Chronologically 9, I believe. Let me open up the question again.
Okay.
And
that's probably...
Yeah, 9 years old, and
you don't want to start
developmentally 3 to 6.
Yeah, you don't want to start too young. There are some other things you could try if you decided meds were not what you wanted to take on at this point in time, because the challenge with medications is that there's still not really good ways to figure out which meds are going to work. So the psychiatrists and the neurologists who prescribe for us, even if they're incredibly insightful, often, it's a guessing game. They might know what family of medications to try, but they don't know exactly this one is going to work. So you have to ramp up and then see what happens and ramp off. And so it's like these experiments. There are some things. There's a test called the gene site test that you can take that helps to try to use your DNA to try to factor in what meds might be more effective for you personally. So I would highly recommend doing that with kids. Is gene site, as like a gene, Gene site, SIGHT. Sometimes your insurance covers it, sometimes it doesn't, but it helps if you're getting ready to go on those medications. It gives all the families of psychotropic meds, and it tells you which one of those in the families is probably best for your DNA. So that takes a little guesswork out of it. But you can do other things. You can look at things like neurofeedback. You can look at things like there are some, what am I looking for? Supplement kind of things like the magnesium, like some, that are generally
Holistic?
not as heavy hitter. Yeah, holistic. There we go. That are generally not as heavy hitter things that you can do. And again, it depends on how you're feeling about it. If the child was really small, and when my daughter was really small, she went on medications at about age 7. But prior to that, we tried a lot of things, and some things made things better. That's how we found the magnesium cream, and some things didn't make them good enough. But then we didn't have the gene site test, and we went through incredible trials over the next 7 or 8 years, on and off. A couple of times actually requiring that she be hospitalized because the coming on and off of the meds put her so out of sorts. So you're looking at a variety of different things there. But with a genetic issue on top of that, the chances are pretty high that, the goal is, what can I do to lessen my child's overall load here and make it easier for her to stay calm, make it easier for her to be able to connect, simplify things for her. And if meds have to be a part of that, then they have to be, you just have to do it as smart and as you can. And if you want to talk to me more about that, I'd be happy to do that. Just email, drop me an email, and we can talk some more.
So we can handle this a couple different ways. We're right at time, but we do have several more questions. Do you have time to take a few more questions and run a little bit long? Or if not, I can email the questions and maybe you all can respond to them and we can distribute that to the group. Which would you prefer?
I'd prefer to keep going if the
Yeah,
technology.
that's fine with me.
Sure. Yep. No, I think that we're fine. I want to be respectful of your schedules. Related to that last question, what are some tips or some guidance or maybe some questions you can ask when you're working with a psychologist, a psychiatrist, to make sure they're really attachment and trauma informed? Because I think not all of them are starting to be, but how do you go about sort of, I don't know, interviewing them?
That's a great question.
Oh, Ginger, somehow I don't think we can hear you. Can you try again?
Can you hear me?
Very faintly.
Oh, I don't know why.
Oh, goodness. What a cliffhanger on this question.
Can you hear
There
me
you
now?
are. Much better now. Great.
What was the question? Oh, how to weed through? You know, that's tricky because some of us live in rural areas. Some of us have insurance that, you know, doesn't cover. And so we do, and maybe Julie was going to talk about this more. In fact, I'm going to hand it over. I don't know if you were going to talk about the directory or things that would help find more, but a lot of times talking with other parents about which doctors have worked for them and what they knew and kind of networking that way. What else, Julie?
Yes.
Darn it.
The fates are conspiring that we're not going to be able to answer this question quickly. I think that's a great point, though, that you made, is that the question itself assumes that you have choices. And you're right, in some rural areas, or depending on your insurance, maybe getting an appointment with anybody at all is
sometimes there are several months wait.
Yes.
So
and that's incredibly frustrating. Yeah.
I think you're, oh, there you go, Julie. Try again.
Here I am. Yeah. I guess I wasn't destined to answer this question. The thing that I guess I would say about finding the right folks, one of the blessings, if you will, of being quarantined right now is that so many of the professionals are doing telehealth. And so while you might have trouble schedule-wise getting in to see somebody, you're not as confined to somebody within 25 miles of your house. I don't know how much Ginger told you about the directory that we have been so fortunate to have funded by the Hilton Foundation. We're in the process of finalizing it and hope to have it launched by September. But it will be a directory of professionals, everywhere from clinicians to residential treatment centers to parenting coaches, to that opt in specifically because they are trauma informed, because they know about the ACEs work, they understand trauma informed modalities, they understand what happens in early childhood, and many of them also have attachment focused practices as well. So we're excited about that because it'll become a several thousand person directory that you'll be able to search, and hopefully it will continue to grow, and we'll continue to find resources because we now have a staff person actively looking for those. It is a problem. We individually, if that's something you're looking for and really struggling with in your location, shoot us an email and we'll have our resource person tell you what resources we know of to help short circuit that a little bit until the directory's up and running completely.
Excellent. Excellent. And one of the commenters also, or one of the participants also mentioned the Center for Adoption Support and Education, or CASE, and they have a database as well of adoption competent therapists. So those are a couple of resources. So let's see. If a child fixates on their way or the highway for a situation and they cannot have their way, how do you stop that cycle and help them move on? He often uses threatening behavior to try to get his way.
Yeah, that's tricky.
Does it say in there how old he is?
It does not say. So the person who
Okay.
originally answered the question, I think 7 now. I think this person had asked some earlier questions and said that the son is 7.
So think about his brain this way. It is going when his lid is flipped because he wants his way, highway, or in other words, you've told him no, and that's a huge trigger for a lot of our kids, that no. So he goes into kind of a vapor lock in his brain. Like, I can't be moved, I can't change because mom has told me no. I need to get what I want. The chances are pretty high, probably, let me just make this assumption too, that if you actually were able to give him what he wanted, that wouldn't necessarily immediately calm him down. He probably still had some vapor lock left over, right? He's still, it's because his brain is used to ramping up. His brain is expecting to hear the no. His brain, it's that whole negative, firing together, wiring together kind of response. If that's what you're seeing, what I did for it sounds kind of wonky, but it worked sometimes, and sometimes is what you're going for, is I would prescribe the behavior before it happened. So if we're all about to do something, and we're all in Walmart, and he's going to ask for the candy, or whatever the situation is, and you're going to have to say no, then I would brief him beforehand. Hey man, we're about to go into this situation, and I know you, and I know you're going to ask for this, and today you can't have that. So I just want you to be ready right now, and if you have to get upset, let's get upset right now here in the car. Well, a lot of times our kids that have that oppositional tendency, that thing that gets diagnosed as oppositional defiant disorder sometimes, their brain won't go into that vapor lock because now they're like, okay, I don't know what to do. Now it's new, and we have to think about that. And maybe they will, and you're in a safer place for them to have that meltdown than other places. But you're prepping that, you're prescribing it. It's okay to get upset about this because I know it's hard to hear, but you're not going to get to do this. And then you just wait for the reaction. And because you've given them permission to get upset, a lot of times they won't, their brains won't go that way because they're so used to having to defend their anger and get all up in that threatening kind of position. Like I said, it doesn't work 100% of the time, but you might experiment and try that. It sounds super counterintuitive, but it's also insightful to say, hey, I know this is hard for you. And it's kind of like you're positioning, I'm on your team. Me telling you no doesn't mean we're adversaries. Me telling you no means I'm on your team, and this is what we need to do because it's what's best for you and best for the family and best in the situation. So I'm telling you up front so that you know. Just see if that works.
Yeah, our kids are just desperate for control, because they have lost control in every single other aspect of their lives. So a lot of behavior stems from that. I need to control this situation, negative or positive, it doesn't matter. So if we can give control in safe ways and as often as possible and get ahead of it, then, because we do have to set those boundaries and we do have to say no, but we can say, and we can, say, yes, here's where the yes comes in. You're not able to have this, but we can do this.
Right.
Excellent. So the next question, I adopted my daughter at the age of 10 and she's now 16. She's very resistant to counseling. She hasn't been in therapy since the age of 13 and she refuses to return. Do I let it go and trust that she'll come to it if and when she's ready? She has self-regulation and attachment challenges.
That's hard.
Yeah, none of these questions are easy. I don't have a low ball.
Sorry she's 16. That's right. I'm sorry she's 16 because that's hard even if you haven't come from a background of trauma. And there is a point, and that's somewhere around that 14, 15-year-old is usually when you hit it, especially for girls, where you can't make them go to get anything out of therapy. So why waste your time and dollars trying to do that unless they're ready? Leave the door open on that. and that may not be the battle that you decide that you want to pick. You may want to try to, there might be other ways that you can try to help enhance her attachment or help her with regulation. There might be other activities that are self-regulating that you can figure out how to get her involved in.
And honestly, and I'm a therapist, I will tell you that time with you as a positive, stable, committed caretaker, hours of that is more valuable, more productive, more progressive than an hour in an office with an awesome therapist. So yeah, therapy is great. You should do therapy if you can and if she will, but don't let her not doing therapy make you think that all is lost. You can do even more.
Excellent. Good. How do we help get our children past hypervigilance and able to start learning academics in a school setting? I guess assuming we ever get back to a school setting.
That's that safety.
Well, yeah. And there'll be a school setting, it just may be in your home. Yeah, and some of it is that the adults, the educators, just like the parents, recognize that that's what it is. I mean, it's really important that the educators understand about trauma-informed education and systems. And we had somebody talk about that the pediatricians and the developmental pediatricians don't understand. Well, neither do a lot of the schools, although ATN is working on that in our schools program actively. But the teachers have to recognize that that's hypervigilance, and they have to work to help your child feel safe. And that's work that's hard for us to do as parents because we're not there in the school helping our child, and depending on how much the child has as far as self-regulation skills. But it's really astute that you noticed that they can't learn when they're hypervigilant.
We have to kind of let those academics go. They're not going to fall into place until we have all the other stuff. I did a few webinars in this summer for teachers and parents with Eileen Pavlak, who's on our school team. They are on our website, and they're short. They're like 10 minutes each. And they're school specific, parent specific towards our situation. So if you want to try to access those, they're really helpful. So email us if you have trouble finding them, and we can link them.
Mm-hmm. And sort of related to that, in terms of accessing your resources, the Path Model cards, are those available for downloading or purchasing, or
yes, they
also
are.
come
They're
to your website? Okay, I will post your website so folks have it. Just a couple more questions, and then I'm going to let you all go. How do you, this is they're all so hard. How do you deal with an 11-year-old child who threatens suicide when she doesn't get her way? Her therapist believes it's manipulative.
It can't, I don't know if I would use the word manipulative, because that's one of the words I try to take out of my vocabulary around what our kids are doing. If they're manipulating a situation, it's because they need something. So, and we have to start thinking about in terms of what is it they need. I think what the therapist is trying to say, that it's the therapist's opinion that she's highly unlikely going to follow through on that action. And that could very well be true. It's just that knowing that's a threat, that she's threatening to do that, causes a response in everybody, and gets a reaction from everybody. So if I start thinking about it, that's how I would start thinking about it. Okay, she's doing these things, she's saying that she's going to kill herself. That's a huge signal that she's way upset and that her lid is flipped and that she's needing some kind of a response. So Can I head that off? Can I address address it directly? I mean, that's her, that would be how I would play detective. That, I don't know what else Ginger's got on that, but that's,
there's something behind that for sure. And what she's getting out of that, how can we recreate that in a different way? Whether it be the attention or whatever, we can give attention. We can do that,
Right. Yeah. you know, and just whatever, however you can explore that with her and get curious about that. Why, why killing yourself? Why, why do you feel so hopeless about these things? Like what, or maybe she doesn't feel hopeless. Maybe there's a different emotion that she's feeling around that, but just digging into that a little bit. If she senses that there's any, fear or big emotion that you're having about that threat, that could just be enough for her brain to keep trying to do that. And so, as odd as that sounds, you're going to have to get comfortable with trying to go underneath that and ask why.
Yeah, I can imagine even if you hear it with some frequency, it must be a terrifying thing to hear.
Yes.
I can only,
Well,
I mean,
absolutely.
myself,
And
I'm
we're
sitting here
not
having a visceral reaction to it,
Yeah,
from,
and at the same time, if you truly believe that she's going to act on that behavior,
we are not saying don't take it seriously.
sure.
But if it's happening frequently, and a lot of our kids do say that, I'm going to kill somebody else, or I'm going to kill myself, or the big stuff like that, then you have to try to figure out what's going on underneath that, and what can we do to what does it make sense to do to ferret that out. It's hard. None of these are easy.
Yeah. Well, I have another tough one for you, and then a couple more, and then we'll be done. But they don't get any easier, so don't get too comfortable. Can you offer any information on compulsive masturbating? My 9-year-old daughter seems to use this to self-soothe, and has since we got her at age 5. I've heard it's okay. I've heard it's not okay. I imagine this is one of those places where you get a lot of well-meaning advice from people who, maybe you should take their advice, maybe not. I'm curious as to your expertise and how you would handle this. And this, again, is a 9-year-old.
9-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If my expertise is only expertise as a mom, so we'll let Ginger do the clinical side of things. But the two things I'd be thinking about were, is she doing it in private so that it's not bothering anybody else? If it isn't a problem, so then that isn't a problem. I mean, if it's the kind, if she's not attempting to do it in some way to be, for everybody to see it. If she's able to do it in private, okay. Is it significant enough that it's causing physical injury, physical problems? Then that's another reason that I might intervene. And other than that, I probably would just let it happen. I mean, as the mom, I probably got other fish to fry, and I would probably just let it happen, and maybe be actively thinking about other comforting things.
Yeah, self-soothing, self-comforting. I mean, that's usually what masturbation is about, is comfort, and it can become addictive, because it can feel so good. So you want to, ramp up the connection and the, regulation, because it can calm down if that's what's going on. But the one thing we don't want is to shame the child. Above all else, avoid shame. And I say that about everything. We're not just talking masturbation. We are talking, please never shame your child. They will carry that with them forever. And you won't have solved the problem. In fact, it'll probably have made it worse, because they'll need comfort. Yeah. And then the shame builds, and it's this horrible cycle. So keep them safe, keep them private, and all of that. But usually there's something behind it. But with that repetitive behavior, then usually if we can substitute it for something else, once everything is kind of in a non-shaming way, and ramp up that connection, because that's the self-soothing, self-comforting need behind it.
Excellent. Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess the only other caveat I could think of is if your child has a history of sexual abuse, that might lead you into some kind of a discussion with a therapist that, about that.
Excellent. And Ginger, great point about shame. I think that it's such
that's
a
another
powerful,
webinar, right?
That's a whole other webinar. Yeah. I've got a list, I'm just going to set up a web channel for you guys. But I think shame is just, it's so powerful. And I think so many of the young people that we see already have a lot of that. I think it's a good point taken that we don't want to add to that. I'm going to go ahead and close with this question. So it starts with a thank you, which I also want to echo, but also a thank you to the asker, because they start their question with, "We foster teens exclusively." And thank you for that. And part of the reason this question jumped out at me is they said, "We've had so many issues with attachment that we're at the point that we're not sure we're going to continue to foster." So if you have any specific resources about attachment and trauma with teens, especially teens who have been in and out, returned home, then removed again, I would be so appreciative. If there's a future workshop about teens, that would be awesome. I would love to put that together. But in the short term, if you have any resources, I think foster parents are just, they're in such short supply and they have the hardest job. So I hope that what we've offered today has helped make that job a little easier. And I would love to offer something in the future specific to teens to make it easier. But just as we close, do you have resources available? Is that another place that we can have people visit your website?
Ginger Healy.
We have done some interviews with parents who have, fostered teens and parented teens and dealt with teen issues. I just forgot what else I was going to say, but I know this is hard and it feels a little hypocritical saying it, but it's not personal what these kids are going through. It feels personal. It is, but it's not. And that's where I know that I'm getting burnout and have secondary victimization and, am getting PTSD with sometimes is when, I'm taking it really personal, and it's so much easier said than done. So I want you to know that I'm not saying don't take it personal, but just know that what these kids are going through and what has happened is not your fault, is not what you're just trying to hold that space for them is enough. It's good enough parenting. Really, just don't try to be perfect, and don't, everything that we've said today, it's so much. Just pick one thing, just try one thing, just keep going, just hold that space and be present. You don't even have to say anything. You can just be there, and that is enough. Just be good enough for today. Let everything else go. Be gentle with yourself, because it's such a heavy load, and I feel that for you. And so I understand. And if you need to take a break from foster parenting, you need to take a break. You're not going to do any good if you have nothing left to give. And so that's okay. I'm giving you permission for that. So
if your cup is empty, take the time you need to refill it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Julie Beam.
Exactly. Yeah, and if our groups at ATN, our support groups, can help you, we do have a lot of families who are at that teenage period, either adoptive or foster, that provide probably way more wisdom than we could come up with in a webinar to each other all of the time. And a lot of it is about, being able to provide that opportunity for them to connect with you, but still not expect that side of the relationship. I mean, that's the hardest part, is we're wired for that two-way connection. So we're wired to get back something, to feel good about those kids. That's the way that we're, to have a relationship with them, and it's a two-way street. And a lot of our kids can't give that way back to us as teenagers. And so we have to have other relationships in our lives, and spouses, others, that can give us that two-way and fill us back up, so that we can hold open the doorway for them to possibly reciprocate that relationship someday, but they may not ever quite get there. So yeah, that's a hard job. That's about the hardest job there is.
It is, absolutely. Well, Julie and Ginger, I want to thank you both so much for agreeing to participate today and for sharing your personal and your professional experience. It's been a really, I think, wonderful to have those different perspectives in the both of you. And Thank you also to your families for sort of letting you share their lived experience as well. This has been wonderful. Thank you especially for staying on extra. I do a lot of webinars, and this is probably the highest number of questions and comments that I've seen. We have a lot of really engaged audiences, but this is clearly just such an important subject, and I feel like we could probably stay on for hours and we still wouldn't get through everything. But just thank you both so much for the work that you do and for sharing your wisdom. To our audience, I've had several questions about certificates. I believe those will be sent from the National Foster Parent Association, so they will not come from Gateway, but they will come from the National Foster Parent Association, so that you'll have documentation of your participation today. But again, just thank you so much. Thank you to the audience for being so engaged and asking such fantastic questions.
Thank you.
Really,
great
really
questions.
good ones. Yeah,
Thank
wonderful.
you for doing in your homes what you're doing. It's so important.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you, and keep your cups full.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you all
We
take
can
care.
help you. Reach out.
Yes,
Reach
please. Please. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.